Hello everyone, this is Regina Bale. I'm the Environmental Education Coordinator at Florida Gulf Coast University's The Water School. I work for the Center for Environment and Society, and in this video series, we are learning how to make Survey123 in ArcGIS Online for our science lessons. This survey will work as a data collection tool for you and your students as they work on a specific science lesson. This presentation focuses on how to publish and share your Survey123 once you've finished designing the data collection tool. If you have not completed your Survey123 with all the different question types and the data that you're going to collect, look at the other videos in this series to get yourself started. So in Survey123, on the bold bar across the top, next to the settings button, there is a share icon. It has 3 dots on it that are connected together by 2 lines. You can see it in this slide, the blue arrow is pointing towards it. When you click on the share button, a box will pop up with a short link and a short link to the survey and a QR code. At the bottom of the box, there is a statement about the survey. This one reads, "This survey is private. To share this survey, this survey is private. Share this survey and collaborate." If you are the only person who's going to be using this survey, it's mainly an internal thing that it's just for you, no need to share it. But if you're going to be working with your students, others are going to be using this survey maybe at your school site, share it in the larger ArcGIS community, you definitely need to share this. So you can actually choose to share it with specific people or the entire community. You have a lot of different options in the Collaborate tab to decide what level of sharing you're going to do. So in Survey123 on that bold bar across the top, next to the design button is the Collaborate button. In Collaborate, there are several options for sharing permissions of this survey and the data collection from this survey. So what are you going to do with that data? Who's going to be able to see it and use it? You have to make those decisions in this area. If you publish the survey without making any changes to the Collaborate section, it will be set to private automatically. So now let's click on the Collaborate button and get started. In Collaborate, there are 4 tabs on the left side column: Share Survey, Share Results, Update Survey, and Group Settings. In this video presentation, we will focus on just the Share Survey and the Survey Results sections. In Share Survey, there are multiple options that we're going to give an overview on and some advice for when you might want to use these options. So Share This Survey is where the link or QR code for the survey is available. In this section, there are also options for how the link and QR code will open the survey on the user's device. The first option is open to the default browser of the device the user is working with, and then they can complete the survey. The second option will take the user to a screen with 2 more options. The first is to open the link in the default browser, or 2, to open the link in the Survey123 field app. The last option on the screen that you can see is to have the survey open automatically in Survey123 field application. So this kind of depends for you what your user is going to be used to doing. So if they already have the Survey123 field app already downloaded and on their device, maybe you just want it to be the third option, it opens automatically in that. Then again, if they don't have the field app, you want them to be able to use the web browser. So you really have to think about your students. Do they already have this app on all of their devices? If not, maybe just open it in the browser. If you're sharing it publicly, you might want to have the second option where it asks, do you want to use this or that? If you're working with a group of students who maybe are younger students or students who are going to get easily distracted, you probably want less clicks to occur on the screen, less choices to have, so you might want to pick the first option. So that's kind of the advice on how that works. I usually, for younger students, pick the first option, or for just general public, I pick the first option just to be safe. It opens in a browser that they already have on their device. But as I'm working with more involved ArcGIS users, I start to lean towards the asking version, where you can ask, do you want to use the field app, or would you like to just do it on the browser? So really just kind of depends on who your users are. So knowing your students or any other users that are going to be on this device and working on this survey, that will help you in deciding what works. You can always change this at a later date, but I like to think about it as I'm going through that design component. So let's move on next to well, you scroll down on this screen. For me, I had to click to the next slide. But when you scroll down on the screen, you'll see some more options that relate to which users can submit the survey and what they're able to do with that survey. So in the section titled Who Can Submit This Survey, it gives you 3 options. The first option is that everyone can submit this survey, which means there's no need to log in to ArcGIS Online. Anyone with a link or QR code could submit anything at any time. The second option is only members of your organization. So in my case, I log in using the Florida Gulf Coast University ArcGIS Online account. That's the organization that I am a part of. So if I click that button for only my organization, that means only people who have a Florida Gulf Coast University login for ArcGIS Online can submit the survey. All other users that may have the link or QR code, they'll be prompted to sign in, and if they are not part of my organization, they will not have access to the survey. So this will probably work with your school district the same way. So if you have a survey that you develop and you click on only members of that organization, they will have to sign in. And if they're members of the organization, they can use it. And if they're not, like if you send it to me and ask me to sign in because I'm part of Florida Gulf Coast University, I will not be able to sign into that survey. So the third option is for specific groups and their members to be able to submit a survey. So all of the groups that you're a member of will appear in a list, and you can select which group or groups are able to submit the survey. So groups can have members from more than one organization. So users, once again, need to log in, and if they are part of the group that you selected for the survey, they'll be allowed to submit the survey, even if they're not part of your organization. As long as they're part of that group, they have permission. You can also choose more than one option. So for example, you could click on your organization and members of the following groups and pick a specific group. So if you were working with another school district and you had a group of members who were building some particular survey together, you could ask that all members of your organization, check that box, then check members of the following groups and the group that you're sharing with. Then everyone should be able to use the survey. So depending on your data and your users, one set of permissions may be more useful than others. For example, if you're doing a public survey that you want everyone to be able to use, then you definitely would want to click on everyone. And everyone blocks out all the other choices because everyone can use it. There'll be no sign in, they just automatically get started. This will also allow you for students who are going to get distracted easily, who are going to kind of get lost in the sign-in process. There won't be a sign-in process because if you click everyone public, it is automatic. It just opens right away. Use the QR code, use the link, it is open for everyone. If it's a survey that's kind of specific to maybe your area, you're not going to be sharing this information, or you don't need a lot of different people to collect this data, you might just pick the groups or your organization in the groups. Really depends on what is your goal with this survey. If I'm going to be using it and I have students who are going to get distracted or have people that are going to have trouble logging in, I switch it to everyone public. Granted, that means anyone who gets a hold of this survey could submit, but you also have control about that data as well. So really depends on what you want to be able to do with this. All of the ones that are shared by FGCU currently, as of 2023, are set as everyone public because we want students and teachers in the 5-county region to be able to use these easily without having to sign in. So let's move down to that second question here. What can submitters do? So this section gives options for editing to your users. All three options allow the user to add a new record. So that means submitting a new survey entry. But other options allow for the user to update a record or update and delete a record. Users are only able to do any edits to their own records, so they won't have access to everybody else's, so they can't accidentally or purposely delete what someone else did. They can only edit their own or delete their own. Most often I have K12 students complete their data collection in their notebooks first and then use Survey123. So I usually just set it to add a new record only. I do not usually have them make edits to it. The idea is that you completed your lab work or you're outside, you did the pH level of this pond water. You should know everything that you're going to submit, and then you're just literally transferring it from what your team wrote down to what you're putting into the survey via your cell phone or tablet device. So I like to make it they only add a new one, so that there's once again less clicks, less things for them to go back and change and adjust, and less errors that will occur. You can set it up a different way. Just use this information with what you know about your users to decide what works best for you. Because yeah, they could submit something incorrectly and then have to go back and edit it or delete it and submit again. That might work better for your group. So take this information and use it based off of your users. So when you scroll all the way to the bottom, this is the screen that you're going to see. You're going to see the rest of the share survey options. The first one is draft mode. This allows the user to start a survey and come back and finish it later. I usually do not enable this option just because students have all their data ready and they know what they're going to input when they open the survey. It's kind of the way I set up the training for the students of you've collected everything, you've written it down in your data notebook, now you're going to input it into the survey. So usually not changing it as they go. If they are working slowly through something, then you might want to have the draft option. I also caution for students who are using location services on their device to find their exact location, that they try to avoid moving around too much, because if you want that data point to be very clearly, this is where I was when I collected this water, or this is where I was when I saw this observation, sometimes students wander around a bit while in draft mode. So they might actually end up changing their location from their original spot. So it's just something to consider, that they don't accidentally input the incorrect data by moving too much. So multiple submissions is the next one. So this is where the, well, it only works in the application version. So depending on what you have for your students, I wouldn't worry too much about it. I actually don't use this very much, but they allow you to set limits on submissions. So how many that they can actually submit. For me, I usually leave it open to having it be public and you submit as many as you like. Mainly because I don't have them do just one data point when we go out. I usually have them get multiple location data points, so I want them to be able to submit again and again. And sometimes they haven't decided which student will be the one submitting for their group, so you could rotate it or not. So this one's an option, but I don't really use it that often. I let them just put as many in as they like. Once you have made your selections, click on the Save button at the bottom of the screen, so that way all of your share information is ready. So this is how you are sharing the survey. Next, we're going to talk about the results of the survey and how we share those. So notice the blue arrow went down to that second section. So in the Share Results section, there are multiple options that we will give an overview on and some advice for when you might want to use these options. So much like the share survey, the share results options allow for users to have different permissions to see the results of the survey submissions. You as the author can always see the results in the Analyze button in the bold bar across the top of the screen. So whenever anyone submits, that Analyze button will allow you to see everything that they have submitted, whether it's photos or signatures, websites, whatever that you have on this survey. The link will take the user to the Analyze section of the survey results, just like you as the author. And once again, you can select what they can view for this information, the same way you selected it for who can complete the survey. So these permissions may be the same or may be different for the different groups of people collecting the data versus people actually looking at the data. Once again, you can select multiple options. So let's go through this real quick. We have what data can viewers see? So this gives options of seeing all of the records collected or just that individual submitter's records. So this might be useful if they're going to be working through all of these like activities that go with all of the data. They would need to see all of the records. Or maybe they're just checking to see that their work was accurate, so they look at their individual submissions. Maybe they're only talking about what their group did. So it depends on like the lessons and activities you're going to do with this data. You can also control sharing all of the records by just sharing them in a whole group as the author, as opposed to letting students be able to see everything. All just depends on what kind of lessons and activities you're going to be doing. So what can viewers do? There are only two options, and both allow the viewer to view the data, but one allows for the data to be exported. Depending on your work, you may not want someone to be able to download all of the data collected, or it may be part of your lessons and activities for students to take all of the data over the multiple trials and like make an analysis of it. So depends. If you're collecting any type of sensitive data, then you wouldn't want people to be able to download it. You might also not want them to be able to screenshot it, so you may not want everyone to have access of all the different folks. Really depends on what you're collecting. And if you're not sure if it would be considered sensitive data or not, just reach out to your school district officials if you have any questions about what you should or should not be collecting. Most of the time, you're going to be collecting pretty simple, science data. So I don't see this coming up a lot, but just to be safe, you want to know about that. So once you've made all your selections for the share results screen, you scroll down to the bottom of the section and you click on the save button at the bottom of the screen. So here are some considerations. Some of them I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, but to go through them again, make sure you have a clear understanding of your users to decide which collaboration level will work for your data collection lesson or lab. If you're using this just for doing these science lessons, you're thinking about your students. If you're doing a larger kind of study where you want community input, then you're thinking about who are the members of the community that are going to be working on this. Same if you're doing this for like science fair and you need to collect a lot of data from a lot of different people, you want to just think about your user. This needs to be easy to do and it needs to be most likely accurate. So you want to avoid having ways where people are going to make mistakes or get frustrated working with it. Be mindful of any sensitive data being collected. Once again, consult your district team if you're not sure the level of privacy for the survey or results based on what you're collecting. Consider on what devices actually the users will use to input their data. If you have a class set of tablets or students will be using their cell phone, it's going to look different, it's going to feel different, so you want to make sure that you're prepared for that. Same idea if you know if they're going to be using an application or if they're going to be using their web browser. And knowing which web browser it's going to pop up also makes a difference, so consider that for sure. The ease of use for a survey can stop a student user from completing their work by being frustrated. So consider the right number of options, clicks, sign-ins for your user. If there's like 40 questions to submit on this survey, maybe you need to go back to what you're actually you need to collect to have this location data with the other information that's being collected. So my favorite part is going into the preview. The preview section, when you go across that top bar on the top of other than collaborate and analyze, you can go through and preview things. So in the design section at the bottom right corner, there are 3 buttons: save, preview, and publish. So throughout the process, just make sure that you're, checking on your design. Does this make sense? Is it easy to use? You can also go through and test it on different screens. So they'll give you like a tablet version, a desktop version, a cell phone version. And then once you're ready, you go through your previews. You can even actually submit one of the surveys in the preview and see how it works. Once you're ready, after preview, you hit publish, and then you are ready to start sharing, which is really exciting. So at the bottom, once you hit publish, after the preview section, once you hit publish, your preview will become a live survey that can be used. So the published survey box will open, as you can see on the screen, and there are 3 options at the bottom of the screen: modify schema, publish, and back. So you've already previewed it, you've already tested to see if it works in the preview, so you shouldn't really have to go back to fix any errors yet. But if you clicked on this by accident, go back and fix those errors. The Modify Schema button allows you to look at all of the data inputs and questions within your survey. This is a great place to check and make sure that each one is labeled in a way that you know what data is being collected. If you find any untitled questions or other issues from the Modify Schema button, you may want to go back to the design section and adjust the labels for clarity. Remember, the data that is being input to this survey should have a very clear label so you know what it is. Because when you start working on your feature layer that it makes from this survey to make your maps and your dashboards, if it just says Untitled Question 7, you'll have no idea what data was collected, because you're not going to see it in the format of the survey. You're just going to see what pops up in that Modify Schema section. So definitely take a look through to make sure that it makes sense. So that way when you're building other things, it's there and ready to go. If you're not ready to publish, once again, make sure to click the back button and it'll take you to the previous screen. But if you're ready to publish, you click on the publish button, and it will take some time for the survey to complete publishing. And then once it finishes publishing, share your survey with your students and begin data collecting, which is really exciting. One thing to note is that sometimes the QR code and the link change a little from private to the new settings. So just make sure that after you publish, that's when you share that new QR code and link. So definitely took a long time. It's quite a long video, but hopefully you know which permissions to work with and how to set things up. So in this video series, we learned how to make a Survey123 in ArcGIS Online, and this survey will work as a data collection tool for you and your students as they work on specific science lessons. This presentation focused on how to publish and share your Survey123. So now that you've finished designing that data collection tool and you are all published, it's time to go collect some data. Thanks for watching.